What's good, everybody? It's me, it's Domino. It's time for a unit review and a deck review. Two birds, one stone. Didn't get around to doing it last with the previous update, and since schedule's out and PM doesn't get anything with this update, I'm gonna do it one for both. So let's get rocking. First up, we got the Flying Tara. We're gonna go over my deck, by the way, first before I go over some notable PM units. We got the Flying Tara version PM. Due to Walker and the trio combo of Walker, Parasite, Taro, Mars Pod, Alicia, just ain't really possible rushing, flat out rushing base as you could, since one of those cheap AP guys will definitely pop up and force you to play around them. So might as well take that advantage and use Tara's great AP gain for that. So it's pretty cool. It's kind of all it does. Send him out at the beginning of the game. That's it. Doesn't ever come back. Volt Electric Barrier. It's pretty much the anti-Taro and small stopgap for Parasite and Alicia. Hilariously, you do not want the Volt Electric Barrier alive next to a Walker, since it can't hurt Walker, and it can't hurt Walker, and it will only just trigger its crazy evasion and close range, since the close range is 0 on the Walker, so it would just force it to jump until Volt Electric Barrier is destroyed. It's kind of an interesting way that SNK is trying to push, people off of Volt Electric Barrier. So that's definitely something to note, that you do not want a Walker next to this thing, because then it will be stuck in evade. It'll just evade forever and just live, since Volt Electric Barrier does, I believe, explosive. Yep, it does explosive damage, so it can't even hurt it. So yeah, that's a thing. Now, probably the most interesting unit that's gotten an update is the the MH6 version PM. So this thing recently got a very stupid buff. It's pretty cool. It's 119 AP, and with buffs, with the crazy buffs given to it, it now has 1.7 million HP. Like, what the fuck? Why does it have so much HP? Now, who knows? Also, it was given a pretty hefty attack bonus, 160, which gives it a very powerful kinetic bullet. And this is very important, kinetic. The bullets all do just enough to always kill Walker, which is, as you now know, resists anything that's not kinetic. So having something that can just one-shot Walker is incredibly important. MH6 also has a couple of other interesting niches to it. It's 119 AP. So what this means is it forces your opponent to make a move, as if they don't make a move, by the time you send this thing out, this thing has 1. 119 AP if it's on a long map and they assume that, you're gonna try and build some AP, well, fucking just send out the MH6 and just kill their base instantly. You can do it in 7 seconds. 6 or 7 seconds. Like, I've done this before while I was testing this unit. It's kind of crazy. It also has a very quick production rate of 700. Movement speed's a little ass, but special is also kind of ass in terms of how it's used, since it just stops moving and takes a little while for it to fire its bullets, but the bullets still hurt quite a lot, even if they are kind of slow-paced. But again, this thing is a very good buff. I highly recommend this unit. The ability to, on spawn, it counts as a grounded unit for a split second, so it triggers any sort of grounded moves and cuts any sort of deployment, any units that rush forward. It just stops them dead in their tracks, since it counts as a grounded unit. So, for example, if Parasite's walking at you and you deploy this thing, there's a 1 in 3 chance that you can kill Parasite with the MH6, which sounds really stupid, but 2 bullets will always hit Parasite as it leans back to attack the MH6 in the sky, which it can't. And then the last bullet will either do one of two things. Either one, it'll connect and kill Parasite, or two, it'll force it to jump. So if you're a gambling person, you can anti-Parasite this. Last important thing this thing does is this thing also works as an anti-miner unit. Now, that doesn't sound as important initially, but what this does is, if the map is on the longer side of things, like the snowy map or the new Invader stage map, what you can do is you can, and you know they're going to send out like something like Mars Pod, which pretty much will stall you out if you're running just pure PM, is you can just send out an MH6, and what it will do is, since it counts as a grounded unit for a split second, it'll force the miner to stop, and then MH6 will just shoot the miner. And with the amount of damage it does, no miner can survive. So it will kill every miner every time, if both are out at the same time. So yeah, this is an amazing unit. If you run PM, I definitely heavily encourage you to run this guy. Stun resistance is kind of somewhat important, since the early game is Parasite, and the second form of Parasite is just going to fly up and give them the suck. These other resistances kind of feel a bit moot, but Poison Chariots are using early, so it'd be good. Definitely be good to just throw it on there if you have extras. If you don't, I wouldn't sweat it too much, but definitely please consider using MH6s if you run full PM. Next up is a unit from the previous update, the Believer Guardian. So Believer Guardian is fairly low AP for a rare. Well, no, that's not true. It's a moderately priced AP unit for a rare, not attached to a premium. So-so health pool. Short range attack is pretty ass. It's slow to start up, but it's also explosive. Doesn't have a long range. Now the special is where this unit shines. So the special, what it does is it flies to the front line and creates like a big sphere of kinetic damage that will easily kill base. Now that's pretty good. However, the real coup de grace moment here is when it does its special, it ignores aerial units. Now, that seems like a duh, but there are certain units that, in certain states, they are considered aerial. An example being Anastasia. So, as you might have noticed in my previous video, there was a match where it appeared that I just won the game out of nowhere on the rug name map. What actually happened what actually happened there was I used the special Believer Guardian special to summon the sphere as the Anastasia was evading, since her evasion considers her airborne. See where I'm going with this? So the sphere ignored her and went to the next target, in that instance being the base. So it's a interesting little trick it has. Probably not going to see it too often, since units like Anastasia are not that common, but there is a more common unit, the Mars Pod, which, after it's destroyed, it's considered aerial. So, you know what that means. Yeah. Believer Guardian is a good rare, doesn't do anything too crazy. It's also got evasion, the 34.5% chance. Gives it a fair shot of, annoying a little bit, but that's about it. At the moment, due to MH6's release, it feels like this is the AP releaser, like AP team bonus for Cara, but it's very appreciated all the same. It's always good having a unit under 150 AP. It's got good, decent movement speed for a grounded unit, the evasion that moves it front line. Not too much complaints about this other than the extremely very lousy short range attack. It's an explosive gun with no range to it, hence the name short. Yeah, that's kind of all there is to Believer Guardian. Is it worth using though? Honestly, if you have this unit, it's probably best only usable at gold or platinum. What a shock, I know. But the main reason for that being the AP cost. If this thing does, she just doesn't have the life to live for anything longer than the early game. So, and early game units tend to be cheap AP. So you want her as cheap as possible to be able to at least get a chance to do her stuff. Because she can kill Parasite as soon as it's latched onto something, like no issue. It's just more so kind of moot after the early game, since that kind of low HP really don't do her no favors. But yeah, get her at gold or plat if you feel like using her. If not, then it's not the worst in the world to skip. So then after that, we got Special Aceto. Goddamn. I don't even know how many months it's been, or feels like it's been almost a full year now at this point since Special Aceto has come into my life, and she's still there. Not much to say here. She basically acts like Taro. She's basically a PM Taro with extra life, evasion, like with extra life and a pretty long-lasting special. It's kind of all there is to her. You drop her when you have the chance to base lock or reversal base lock it, preferably, since let's be real, you ain't dropping a 184 AP unit on a mixed team, or even pretty much any other faction team, unless they're just not paying attention. Just doesn't happen anymore. Good unit, good decent evasion, decent bulk for her cost. It's PM Taro. I don't know what else you want me to say. Cara, goddamn, I love this. I love this maid woman, this tiny maid lady. Ah, get in there. So, Cara, I believe, is pretty fucking amazing. She is incredibly bulky for her. She's incredibly bulky for her costs. 700k for 304 AP is pretty chunky. She's got a fairly quick production time for a premium. 150-75 is pretty fast. She's got pretty good resist, 508, and she's got pretty decent movement speed, 5.62. So let's get this out of the way. Her short range is kind of lame. It's only good for like picking off weenie units like Taro, and Taro really there's not like, it's just you just don't really want to use her close range. She doesn't have a long range. Now her special is where it's at. So what it does is she throws out some strings that lock, well, more like act as a fake wall, so units kind of stop at it. And then she does continuous crazy amounts of kinetic damage. There's that important part again. To that small area, and even a little bit like a little bit away from that area. So she gets some extra reach, good for poking. And then she does a big snip, and any units killed get sealed off for 19 seconds, I believe. Is it? Nope. Yeah, 19, almost 20 seconds. That's nuts. She's also stun immune. So her stun immune attack, unfortunately, is kind of lame. She throws out the little rabbit. The rabbit doesn't do any fucking damage, really. It just buys time, really. And that's it. She's a very straightforward unit. She has no evasion. She has no iframes outside of special and being stunned. And that's it. She's pretty much send out unit, do special, and, you know, aim for the kill. Very little can survive this special, like this full special, without some sort of barrier or evasion or iframe. It's just that strong. It's also got very good distance. It leaves her at the front line too. So if you do this from far out and then do it, she gains a lot of distance. Main thing to watch out for if you use her is you do not want her to get silenced. Her getting silenced means she loses her evasion essentially, and that leaves her easy pickings. But yeah, if you happen to have Cara, she's a great unit for PM especially. She is very similar to Little Lady Black, except she does not have the slow startup from spawn and the long range that kind of is kind of like eh. So yeah, Cara's a fantastic unit. I love her. It's not only because she's a maid, but it's because she is a fancy maid that's with little psychotic tendencies, and that's my shit. Next up, we have Rebellion Catalina. I don't know how she does it. How the fuck is she still relevant here? So, 320 AP is very on terms of usability, but since we still use Special Aceto, she's 288, makes her completely usable. She's one of the few backliners with an evasion, which lets her survive things like Astro and Victoria. It's very important since Victoria has been the shutdown of many backliners due to the fucking Firebird doing crazy amounts of damage and silence. So, you know, that's what Caro's got going for her. And her long range is kind of eh. It's like they're explosive bullets that honestly, it's like who cares? Her special, like most PM units, is where it's at. It's a 57.3k bonk from the Herdigu, and it's kinetic. See? So it's obviously no surprise that PM is all about the kinetics right now. And honestly, that's not bad, considering barrier units are pains in the ass. And right now, the most pain in the ass one is Walker, because you will see that on like 80% of mixed decks at the moment. It's just that stupid of a unit. So, Caro is actually a pretty fair shot at killing it, since give it a bonk, it's got a almost a 1 in 3 chance to get rid of Walker then and there. It's easily overflows the damage. It's relatively quick special load. And yeah, that's Caro. She's managed to stay relevant in PM for a long time. If you have her plat, you get the max buffs. Hilariously, she resists explosive and fire, both very common long range, but doesn't resist, very weak to the kinetic, which is hilarious because there are very few kinetic backliners, let alone kinetic backliners who can survive Victoria. So I personally still love using Catalina. She may not come out every game, but she is still probably the fastest PM backliner to bonk a base. So I don't know, I love her. And if you follow me on Twitter, you can see the lewd drawings of Taro I've done. So give that a follow at omnomdomino at twitter.com if you haven't yet, if you want to see any of that. Next up, we got Toa version Rebellion. Toa at the moment kind of feels like a bit like filler. Unfortunately, all her attacks are explosive. She doesn't have a long range. But that's okay. Honestly, she acts as a backup frontliner for Cara, which, as mentioned before with Cara is quite bulky, but if she's silenced, she's quite powerless. So having Toa as a backup is a good idea, since, like her, Toa is stun immune, and she gains her own counter and has regen, so gives her a bit of lasting power, especially with that good health pool. Special is very good, clears out projectiles as she rushes to the front, has high knockback to it, and her special, again, fucking PM units and their specials. Her special is pretty good, makes her go into full iframe, she does a big drill, does stupid amounts of damage to anything that doesn't resist explosive, and yeah, that's honestly what Toa does. She has an HP skill, which, truth be told, wish she didn't have the HP skill. Wish she had like speed or crit or even barrier, even as the avatar of evil once very soon to getting its 3rd skill, where it will gain attack and become the obvious staple in PM decks, would lead one to say that, like, well, you don't need Toa anymore now that you got, you know, two HP buffs and 2 attack buffs. It's like you maxed out, you're doing it for the 1%. So, you know, looking at it like that, yeah, it would have been way better if she had a speed, barrier, or crit skill instead of the HP faction skill, but what are you gonna do? Good backup unit for Cara, not necessary due to, honestly, projectiles not really being a thing right now. Can't get rid of Rebellion Elysion's jellyfish with her. Shit's whack. You gotta get something to absorb those, gotta get something to tank. So, we'll get to that in the second part. Good unit, good backup for Cara, not a staple. At the moment, not the biggest power player anymore. And then we got Mira, double buff. Honestly, you don't get to Mira anymore. Victoria has made sure of that, as well as the fast-paced nature of the game. So, Mira's time's up. She doesn't get to torch bases very often anymore unless you're already in a position where you've won. And at that point, why don't you just use Caro to win faster? And Rebellion Dragunov, honestly, is just the attack buff until Avatar of Evil gets the 3rd skill unlocked. And that's not very far from now. That's literally, I believe, tonight or tomorrow. So, alright, as for PM units that are of somewhat worth mentioning here. So we got Sapphire Claw unit. I was experimenting with this before this update. No reason to ever use this thing. The MH copters got buffed to a point where anything that Sapphire Claw could do, MH does better. The only thing Sapphire Claw can boast is that it is 68 AP, but then it's made out of paper with 100k HP, so it's The long range is also, unfortunately, just short of one-hit KOing Walker. It'll do about 22k with buffs due to how skill buffs work. It's fucking whack. But again, what are you gonna do? It's just short of killing Walker in one hit, and even then, its Walker activates its close range as Sapphire clones in, so it'll never actually really hit it with the long range more often than not. Shit's stupid, but it is what it is. Special is stun, but who cares? Because for this AP, honestly, it just acts more as just a long range poke. So Sapphire Claw unit, don't use it. If you are using it right now, switch it out for MH6. You'll literally get better mileage out of it. Get over here. Space Drone. Space Drone's fine. Still, I don't think it's good for the meta right now anymore, especially with Walker. You do not want attacks that just trigger Walker's evasion. That won't kill it, and unfortunately everything Space Wall Drone does is explosive, so that's one. And two, it's very, very weak, since it's more so for stunning than for attacking, so that's two. And honestly, three is your Space Drone's gonna just make it go nuts every time it evades. And it's a good unit, but god damn it, as the game goes on, there's units get to rise and fall, but I feel like Space Wall Drone's already come and gone, as Perseer has gotten a lot less popular due to these newer units. So that's the main source of projectiles has kind of disappeared, and stun versus so much stun resistant things is just like a swing in the dark. If you want a staller, go for it. Just still be aware that Alicia can still one-shot it due to fucking Alicia having such a fucking nuts swing. But it is what it is. You can go ahead, still use Space Wall Drone if you need some sort of backup early game frontliner, but honestly, Believer Guardian is the step up if you just want like a ground unit to do stuff, and you know, a bit more flexible. As another thing, personally I never liked about Space Waldrone is that it is very weak at killing minor units. Like it can't kill Volt Electric Barrier, it can't kill a Mars Pod on its own, can't kill a sandbag for sure. So it's like, come on, guy. Honestly, the main props I can also give it is, you can try sending it out against Tara's. You know, if they didn't bother with the stun immunity or resistance, sorry. So that's something. Maybe you'll get the 2 shots in to kill it. But honestly, it's like that's the most I could say about Space Waldrone. Like, I believe now that Walker's out, Space Waldrone is kind of an iffy pick, since again, you don't want to trigger Walker's evasion. So next up, Tarah. God damn it, get in there. Tarah version PM Plus. So, you know I love this thing, but as I just mentioned with Space Waldrone, you do not want to trigger Walker's evasion, and unfortunately how this unit works is after every pass it makes, it just keeps going and going until it's exploded. And unfortunately its attacks are 1, very weak, and 2, they're explosive. So you know what that means. Can't kill Walker, and it just ends up being more of a hindrance. Really don't need that. And honestly, like, you don't really need to like counter Tara's as hard as you did before, since Tara usage is kind of not there anymore due to, like, well, this unit's 85 AP, why the fuck am I gonna send out a Tara when I can just send it out already? And it's like, yeah, that's a fair point. So Tarah version PM Plus, just retire it if you're still using it. Let's see. Next up, Special Miharu. Holy shit, game, please. Special Miharu. She's a good unit. Problem is, due to Walker, you don't want to use fire anymore, and that's kind of all she's got. Her special is fairly weak, and she's 170 AP. That's kind of ass for the units that you're trying to hit, namely trying to get rid of Walker and, you know, try, and if, you know, there's Alicia, you try to get out before Alicia, and unfortunately she can't do both. Fire is important. In fact, that's pretty much the only way you can get rid of Maya. However, PM already has enough trouble versus Maya, and to dedicate multiple slots to try to get rid of Maya, which you can't beat out anyways in versus a very functional mixed deck, is like you're splitting hairs here. So Special Miharu is a good unit, but you do not want fire at this time, since you're way more likely to see a Walker than a Maya. Even though Maya is still common, you're just more likely to deal with Walker before her anyways. So good unit, just getting left behind due to the times. Maybe she'll be back if fire becomes prominent again. God damn it. Let's close that. Wasn't supposed to hear that sound. Next we got Little Lady Black. I love Little Lady Black, however, the game does not want me to have fun with her at this moment. Honestly, you could replace her for Toa. This is just the main difference here is that Toa has the very useful projectile erasing spawn attack. Little Lady Black does not. Also, Little Lady Black does not have a full iframe special, which is, kind of important, as full iframe lets you survive and stall for extra seconds. Hers, unfortunately, she's vulnerable as she does the headbutt, so that could get her killed. Shit sucks. Outside of that, 256, she's cheaper. Her short range is just barely too weak to kill Walker in one hit. It leaves it with a couple hundred HP left due to Walker's own resistance in the math. Shit's weird. You'd think these resistance numbers kind of fuck with things, so they're not exactly the most honest, in my opinion. I kind of wish they would do something about that, but what are you gonna do? Yeah, so her close range is just barely short of one-hit KOing Walker. It's honestly part of the reason why she's over here in this section at the moment for me. And that's kind of it, yeah. Like, she's a great unit, but it's just Toa at the moment for PM, in my opinion, can provide more than Little Lady Black, since kinetic heavy DPS is covered by Cara, it's covered by the MH6 copters, and Believer Guardian, and Rebellion Gato. So it's PM has more than enough kinetic at the moment. It's just more so having to pick between Toa and her, and Toa just has a bit more utility than Little Lady Black. But we'll see. Maybe if I need, like, if Knockback for whatever reason becomes super popular, yeah, I'll throw in Little Lady Black again. But at this moment, I think I prefer Toa over her. But that's a shame. She's still a fantastic unit. If you have Little Lady Black but not Toa, go with that. Don't stress it. She's still great. It's just that, unfortunately, you're just gonna have to punch fucking Walker twice. But it is what it is. Show. Alright, so Show got buffed previous update. Fucking, come on. I didn't bother upgrading him, unfortunately, because Show was a good unit back then at Plat. Show is not a good unit now, period. And this is mainly due to his evasion counter skill, where he will retreat a set distance to throw the little sickle. And honestly, that's the big problem. He retreats too much, and he will get killed during the windup of his special. So it's like, you can send him out to only use his close and long range and never use his special, but then you have a unit that's always constantly retreating. It's dumb. So the game forces too much movement now from early game pushing. It's too hard to push back. So even though Show with buffs at Plat can easily one-hit KO a Walker with the close range, it's the moment other things start attacking him, he can no longer do the close range, because the close range is kinetic. Everything else is explosive, and that's the big problem here. Yeah, I don't recommend using Show. Please don't. He's cool, but not for competitive reasons. Dragunov. Dragunov's cool. Unfortunately, all her attacks outside of her second form are explosive. Damn it. Not going to be able to, not relevant as much anymore due to aerial status and Victoria taking huge chunks out of her. Easily brings her to her second form pretty quickly. She's very mediocre. She's good as a nuke for everything that doesn't have a barrier to it. But that's honestly it. Like, fantastic old unit that got buffed if you just want a long range nuke. Other than that, I wouldn't really recommend her. It's 360 AP it's kind of up there. Let's see. Anastasia. So Anastasia, I feel, is also in that weird line of just weak enough to not be able to one-hit KO Walker. Unfortunately, her evasion counter is a fire, not kinetic. So it's always going to be a bit short when it comes to killing her. Also, Anastasia's attack speed is very slow. She's more of a staller herself due to 69% evasion, 2 forms. But she is not good for taking out Walker, which honestly is not going to be her main target. But she's just... I don't know. The game at the moment does not favor very expensive units that will get forced back by units like Maya, especially if you can't get rid of them. So, in that instance, that's why I don't run her. She's a great unit, don't get me wrong, but being powerless in the face of Maya, because you would have to run 3 units, which is then give you 0 chance to survive early game, is just like, wow, that's kind of dumb. So that's why I don't run Anastasia anymore. Again, if fire becomes prominent, sure, I'll do it. Or if certain units get removed, fantastic. But that's honestly how things shake out for Anastasia for me. And maybe for you, I don't know. You're listening to this, you probably made it to this point, so maybe my words sink in a little bit. I don't know. Digu. Digu is still fine. Digu does what Digu does. At the moment, I think Digu is pretty good. What he does is a very handy stun immune ability, which is pretty good, and evasion. So, basically, Rebellion Elysion cannot get rid of Digu easily. The jellyfish will get stuck to Digu, and because Digu is so bulky, with this base HP of 1.7 million, they will just keep homing in on Digu, triggering his evasion, so it's a bit of a win-win. Digu base snipes are not as common anymore. Lots of, again, just one of those things where lots of stuff just keeps happening. But yeah, he's very good for anti-Rebellion Elysion. She will just keep triggering his evasion. She'll take chunks out of him every now and then, but honestly, just the jellyfish getting stuck to it is fantastic, as really there are no PM units that can tank the jellyfish. Svetla has a barrier, but she has such poor HP regeneration that she dies anyways. It's kind of dumb that it's like, oh man, this big unit with this barrier is just getting mowed down because she has really low HP regen? What? Why? For 400 AP? That's fucking dumb. And yeah, Digu, good wall, good jellyfish magnet. Use it if you want to. I just don't use it because I don't know. Maybe I'm too focused on my strat at the moment that I don't play defense too much. But if you got Digu, who's not a bad choice at the moment, there aren't really any single hit nukes since Omnis kind of dipped from the meta due to Victoria. So at the moment, Digu gets to run around and do its Digu things. So go for it. Owen. So OG Owen got a buff. God damn it. OG Owen got a buff that gives him about 6 million HP and makes all his attacks stupid strong, and all his attacks are kinetic. So why not use him? Well, he's 448 AP at plat. And that's it, honestly. That's the only thing that sets my man's down is his own AP cost. He is more expensive than most bosses. He is more expensive than most premiums. He's also a sloth in movement, and very similar to Cara, he relies on his special to avoid damage. 6 million HP sounds like a lot until you remember that he cannot iframe unless he's being knocked back or he is using his special. So that's unfortunate for Owen. The other unit that got buffed is regular Yoshino, but just like Rebellion Yoshino, both have the same issues where they can get killed as they are lifting the hammer. Yeah. Both have very slow attack speeds, both rely on their counters to survive, and if they, bad RNG kills them as they are lifting the hammer, well, that's a GG. But yeah, that's my unit review and deck review at the same time. Sorry this was done kind of late. Skipped last week due to just not being in the mood for doing anything, plus lots of Animal Crossing and some drawing. Again, check out my Twitter, omnomdomino, if you want to see some lewds of characters. Just, you know, be cool about it. Yeah. Metal Arena video soon. Season's coming to a wrap. Maybe I'll throw in some of the end season stuff into it. Other than that, stay safe. Keep enjoying the game, guys, and I'll catch you later. Bye.